Welcome back to another episode of the Scale It podcast. Today we have Jesse. He is a multi-business owner with 3 companies under his belt. Known for being an early adopter of cutting-edge technology, Jesse is deeply passionate about artificial intelligence. He's the kind of operator who engineers businesses for the future. All right, Jesse, welcome.
Thank
you. Great
you.
to have you on, man. I'm
Thank
really
you.
excited for this conversation, get to know a little bit more about your business and kind of how you've structured everything. So
Awesome.
kind of want to open it up, let you talk a little bit about the background and how you kind of came into where you are now.
Okay. My business partner and I, we've been in the mortgage industry over 20 years. We decided to go on our own, open our own company in October of 2019. And then February of 2020, COVID hit. And we were like, what is going on? But it ended up being a blessing in disguise for our business,
right?
And it took off. 2021 was the best year we ever had. So we've been adding businesses to it, verticals. We added the real estate side. We recruited all the agents that we used to work with.
Wow.
And and we recruited them. They were super happy. And then last year and a half, almost 2, I think, we've been now building the property management side. We're short-term rentals and long-term rentals. So
nice.
That's kind of what we've been doing now.
Nice. I kind of want to go step by step with you there because it sounds very interesting, kind of the evolution of how it came. So starting with the COVID, kind of being maybe at the front end, something that no one knew was what it was going to do to the businesses and whatnot, but ended up being here, at least in South Florida, huge benefit to you guys. So how was it something where, once you guys had a very successful run there, did you just know, hey, I want to parlay this into another venture? Like what kind of made you want to branch out?
We had the best year we'd ever had in 2021. And then 2022, when they started raising rates, it was very volatile. Mm-hmm. So being only having one vertical, being in that mortgage industry, you're susceptible to stuff that is way out of your control, right? With rates and stuff like that. So we were like, hey, look, we need to balance it out with other sources of income, and that's why we built the real estate company, and now the property management to kind of just keep everything level. Everything feeds itself. The real estate side feeds the mortgage and real estate feed the property management, and we kind of keep that loop, that internal and it's organic, and it kind of they all feed themselves,
right?
Which is we add more agents, we add more investors, and everything else kind of takes care of itself.
Right. I love it. So talk to me a little bit about that. So you have your partner, and in terms of actually scaling the companies, and what has been your approach in terms of growing your team, growing revenue sustainably? Like how have you guys done that?
Well, the hardest part in all 3 companies is the mortgage process, right? So the mortgage process has 100 different touch points and little mini processes that it takes to get somebody from just, hi, how are you doing? I want a loan, to closed. So there's a lot of documentation, a lot of parties involved. So that's been the hardest, is finding the right people to kind of manage that piece of the, holding the client's hand through the whole process. But we found a really good team so far, and it's been magical. And you can tell by our reviews, the clients are super happy with the process on that part. As far as the agent recruiting, that's also we try and build that organically, right? So, when we're on a mortgage transaction, usually 2 sides to it. We're trying to impress the other side, not just for mortgages, but then, hey, look, we have this company here on the real estate side, and then we use, lately it's been last year and a half. It's like, okay, so we've been structuring each agent's business and be like, okay, this is what do you do, and and well, how can we use AI to help you? And that's been a really good tool to
Right.
attract talent.
We'll
that
get
way.
to the AI. We're definitely going to get there. And I actually want to stop there on what you mentioned there. Very interesting. So you guys kind of lead with that quality level service on the B2B side. You know, the realtors
Right.
are working with you or your team on the getting the mortgage and all of that. And then you can kind of use that as kind of a stepping stone into, hey,
Correct.
if you like the way this worked and this experience went,
Right.
imagine how it would be. It's very smart, man. It's very
Yeah.
smart. What kind of, was that just a natural decision that you guys had made? Like it seamlessly rolled into it, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. We've attracted, because when you do a good job on the mortgage side, it's a referral based business, right?
Sure.
So everybody kind of, when you do something, when you're good, some people tell
Of course.
2 people. If you do something bad, they tell 10.
That's right.
So
That's right.
we try to do as much good as possible, and get everybody to the closing table on time. And then on the real estate side is, how do we bring that mortgage methodological approach over to, the real estate side of the business. How are your leads? How are you getting your leads? How many? What's your conversion? How many of those leads turn to closings? What do you do for advertising? What do you do for content? That type of stuff to grow your business, other than just being 100% referral based,
Right.
which is very up and down.
And so it sounds like you guys do a lot of, is it like a lot of training, or not, maybe not training, but kind of empowering your team? Like do you try and
Yeah, we
help
do.
them
We
as much as
do
possible?
lunch and learns with them.
Nice.
And a lot of it is on the day to day, right? So my business partner Javier, he does a really good job of talking to every single human being every single day, multiple times a day. I don't know how he does it, but between the two of us, it becomes, it's a high touch point thing where, when we see something that's working, we want everybody to take advantage of what's working. And when
Right.
something's not working, then hey, this is
Let
not
them
working.
know.
Right?
Right.
Or when they come to us and they say, hey, does this work? Does that work? And well, we've seen this works. We've seen this not work.
Right. And do you think you mentioned kind of the adopting some of the that is a tough word to say, methodology
Right.
of what you do in the mortgage and trying to adapt it in the real estate? Which do you think is, if there is a difference, like more difficult in terms of getting, both are kind of contingent on getting to that finish line? Do they kind of match difficulty do you find across the teams, or?
Yeah, the toughest part on the mortgage side is to not be reactive, right? Because there's a bunch of problems coming so like you have your process of, making sure every file goes a certain way, making sure it gets to the end correctly. You have a process for your sales and marketing, making sure it goes X, Y, and then you have a file, a loan, or something blow up, and then it's all hands on deck, everything, and it kind of builds a very reactive, and you're not following the process that you're supposed to. So, on the real estate side, it's the same thing, right? So, you are out of 100, let's say you do 100 things, 20% of it is what really makes you revenue. The other 80%, you should be outsourcing. You should
Right.
be, doing something else,
Right.
letting somebody else do that. And it's either a person, AI, or, or a different way. you know?
Yeah.
So you just you have to put 100% of your focus on the revenue building activities.
As the operator, you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Talk me through maybe some growing pains or some kind of hard learned lessons.
So
that
the
you've
toughest
gotten over the
part
years.
I think we've had has always been hiring staff and people. We've got a really good group now, but that's something. Hiring and training staff for us has always been the hardest, because we're involved in the business too. So we're in the sales, we're in this, we're in that. So like, bringing somebody into our team and getting them from walking in the door to like somebody who's working, full time and doing what we want them to do. So that piece has been the hardest because
kind of nurturing them into what you want them to be.
Yeah. So like training them,
Yeah.
bring them. That's kind of been the hardest part, I think, for us is getting from walking through the door to. I mean, we've gotten better at it.
Sure.
You know, we have now some automations in place, trainings, videos, stuff like that kind of helps.
And you kind of touched on it. It really
Right.
helps having kind of like it's almost like a cookbook. Like
Right.
it should look like this.
Correct.
Every single time.
We're in the office every day, and everybody's in the office every day, so we're
Right.
very all constantly talking. But the tough part is, when you have remote staff or people that work from home, then that.
And do you have some of that in
Yeah,
place?
we have some of that every now and then. Currently we don't, but
I see the shift.
Yeah.
It started definitely going, it was a hot wave. It was like, no one's ever going back to the office. It's like,
we were never fans of the remote work on our end. Only because I work from home a lot, and there's a lot of distractions and, stuff like that. And, although the way we are with our staff is, we just set the goals, and then at the end of the month, we see, did we hit them? Did we not? Why? We're not constantly on top of them.
not like micromanaging. It's
No,
more
no.
goal oriented.
No. I mean, yeah, it's a balance, right? So
Sure.
you have to, you have to make sure that the goals are met, and that everybody's happy, and and then life happens sometimes.
Sure.
People get sick, they have children, they have this,
Yeah.
so you have to be, empathetic towards that as well.
course.
So, but so far, we're in a good, trajectory, and
Yeah.
we like our staff, and we're excited with what AI and all this stuff that's coming.
Let's crack it open. Talk to me about AI, man. Now he's itching. I feel like he's itching to talk about it. I can see his eyes light up a little bit every time you say AI. How have you guys been implementing it? Walk me through it.
Well, I think the number one thing that we started using it for is to replace a lot of our CRM stuff that we were using. That was like the quick win, easy stuff. So,
And by that you mean kind of like the data management, cleaning up the files,
follow-ups,
moving stuff,
easy the follow-ups. I mean, I really believe now that, CRMs or whatever it is you're using should be really easy to use, number one, so that people adopt it. And we've had that issue. We had that issue before where, we get a CRM. It did on the demos, it did a million things and it looked incredible, but the learning curve of it was so hard,
like tramples adoption.
And people were just like, not using it,
right?
And because everything was manual, right? So if you needed to go from one stage to another stage, you have to go and pick the stage, So now we have our own custom stuff, and we connect our communications channels to it, like our phones, our emails, and it kind of moves those stages on its own. It triggers follow-ups on its own. There's rails between, because we use a lot of, so for our phone system, we use Ring Central. So Ring Central has really good APIs. So we, have follow-ups, and you can't really tell if it's coming from the staff or the AI that's handling it. And then for long-term nurture, we switch out of our internal communications, and we go out to SendGrid, Twilio, that kind of has that, and
more on
keeps
like
following.
the nurturing sequences.
Yeah, on the
and
nurturing stuff, right? Because you also have to. There's regulations. There's spam. You don't want to get counted. You don't want to get hit with any of that,
right?
Because that'll affect you. So we guard for that, and then we push out. And
so have you seen? Sounds like you guys have kind of adopted it across ops and sales and marketing. So is there anywhere you kind of have been? Because I know of certain industries and there's disclosure and you got to be a little careful. Have you avoided?
Yeah, on the real estate side, it's been pretty simple.
Yeah.
We've mimicked A lot of what the MLS does, we've mimicked the CRM portions. There's not a lot of personal private information.
Right.
On the mortgage side, we use industry standards for, industry standard and industry leaders for loan origination systems, where all the private data and all the private documentation stays in like enterprise level secure
Security, right.
stuff, right? So,
Right.
the stuff that we pull out of there is basically contact information, stages. So, and kind of like what I call pipeline management, right?
Right.
So, if a loan or a borrower or somebody's in this stage, how long before they get to this stage, and it's set off alarms, say, hey, you need to follow up, and it's connected to our communication. So
Right.
missed calls, text messages, it kind of knows already what has been going on in a file. So it has that. But as far as the personal private information, we haven't touched that yet. And I think that stuff will always stay in.
Yeah.
But we will be doing a lot more with the processing work and AI soon.
And so you guys have been implementing it, and we were talking about it during our conversation. I'd love to get your take. What do you think about it replacing jobs? Have you had any people that you've just let go because they
actually
it frees up their time, right? So you can kind
that's
of
really what I've seen.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen it replace any of the humans that we deal with. I mean, as far as the mortgage side, there are certain things that testing. I mean, we've done it. It doesn't do very well outside of the chat, the built-in, in the enterprise, like, the Claude and the ChatGPT inside their chat platform. Outside of that, it's very difficult to get it to read documents, heavy sets of documents, non-native PDFs where it's just scanned documents or pictures or screenshots. It hasn't, outside of their environment, in a private environment, it's not great yet. You would have to link in, some high-level document imaging and intelligence features from like AWS, Google, and it ends up costing more than you would have just reading it.
Yeah.
So, but it's getting better.
Right.
It's exponentially better than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting it to be exponentially better a year from now.
Right.
So that's kind of where we've stopped currently. So the mortgage people are safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the real estate side, it's scarier, because it can do a lot more on that piece, as far as searching, scheduling showings. It won't go and open the door for you,
Right.
but everything else is pretty. It's close. It's
So
there.
how are you on the real estate or realtor side? How are you kind of prepping your agents for that transition that's coming?
Well, we've built an entire AI operating system for our agents, where it's self-serve for the client. They can look at properties, they can schedule showing, do everything, and then the agent is kind of just involved when they raise their hand. Evaluates properties, tells them how much they think they should offer. It could even draft verbal offers for them.
Wow.
And it follows up with them too. And every agent has its own phone number to talk to the AI, and which we call her Ella, named after my daughter.
There you
But
go.
every agent has a line to talk to her, and then every client has their direct line to talk to the
Wow.
AI too. So, you tell it what you want, where you want. It has map search features. It has all the Google Map APIs you can think of. It's connected to the MLS. All the MLS APIs you can think of.
And this is your tool. This is your proprietary.
built from scratch. Yeah.
Nice, man.
And you can, and the client really has, right now we just finished the buyer piece, right? So if you're a buyer, it really gives you a lot of tools. It scores every property you look at on a scale of, overpriced to fair to very good value.
Almost like formulating an opinion.
Yeah,
on
it gives you an
its-
opinion, right?
Damn.
And and it gives you those values based on universal appraisal standards.
Smart.
So it's, it looks at all the same guidelines that appraisers use to evaluate property. It picks the comps directly from the MLS because there's an MLS fee, and it'll tell you exactly what it thinks you should offer and what's a good price, and it even predicts at what price it could sell at.
Wow.
So that part I didn't even. That was a side effect.
Yeah.
It was just and even you see it in Zillow now when you go to a Zillow property, it'll tell you where do you they think it's gonna
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
It has a prediction
Right.
engine type of thing. And that was just like we didn't even know that it could do that.
Yeah, and that I've run into that a couple of times. I'll be working on some project, whatever, building a dashboard or what have you, and then kind of like in between, it's like, you know what, this could also probably connect, and you start driving the webs, and it's really a powerful tool, man. I think it's gonna be very similar. I was very young when the internet came to be. Like, it was maybe like a couple of years old, so I didn't live it, experience it, but I grew up through that age, social media, saw how that changed. I really think AI is that next cycle, that next evolution. We're gonna have a pre-AI world and a post-AI world, similar to social media. And
Yeah, it is.
I don't think it's going
moving
anywhere.
fast.
Yeah, a lot they say, oh, it's a bubble.
It's
like,
moving fast, and it's. I mean, if you just look at the stuff it did a year ago and what it does now,
And Claude is just like,
and you see
taken
companies
off.
like Anthropic, which are just a year ago, it was not even open. I mean, ChatGPT was the thing.
Right,
It was like, so I had my ChatGPT and OpenAI subscriptions, and I had those APIs, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then Claude went from second fiddle. It was, and then all of a sudden it spiked.
Especially on the coding side.
Yeah.
And so I've been meaning to ask you, this is like, have you developed these things like yourself, or did you hire someone to?
No, everything I've done myself.
Bro, that is
Yeah,
awesome.
I've done it
You just
myself.
Caught the bug.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, man.
and
I'm the same
and
way.
it's, I mean, we've used developers before.
Sure.
Pre AI.
That's expensive.
Yeah, and basically everything I've built now I've wanted to build years ago. But you go to somebody and then they would be like, yeah, we could do
50
that.
grand.
200,000,
200.
$250,000. We even remember
Crazy.
we wanted to create an in-house loan origination system where it would, just help us, with our day-to-day stuff, pre-approve people. And then we got to a point where we had to ask Fannie Mae for access to their desktop underwriting system. And just that access they asked for $1 million. So there was a huge gate keeping, the software SaaS, there was a huge gate behind that just because of the cost of development.
Right.
But now it's
I mean, floodgates are open.
yeah, which is good and bad.
Right. Well, I think it always, you have the top rises, bottom, will fall out. I've seen, it's very interesting because, again, I like looking kind of back at the historical technological, because this is, I feel like a technological evolution, like go back to the early 1900s of Model T. Like, we can start from there and just start looking at the timeline. I've seen some people that are less bullish talk about like kind of like as a parallel to this being like the internet, the .com bubble in like 99, where like, everything exploded, but the internet didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Couple companies and people lost their ass, but
Yeah.
the internet didn't go anywhere. I'm very confident. You can't see the future, but I'm very confident AI will be something similar. You're going to have a bubble. There's going to be a lot of speculation, a lot of people jumping into it as, startups, tech, whatever, what have you. There'll be a correction, but I don't think AI this is it. Like, we're going to be using it. It's going to be here, and I think the business owners that adopt it,
correct. And that's been
gonna
our
take off.
And honestly, that's been my, like, you're getting stuff that used to be available at the enterprise level, big companies, big giant competitors, and now you can, a small business can really use it and take advantage of it, and I think that's where the opportunity lies, right, for small businesses. It's it's a game. It's more like a game leveler,
Right.
than and game changer. But it really will. It really helps a lot. I mean, I don't see it getting rid of people yet, but we don't know what's coming, right? So maybe it can, and I do think that those that adopt it first will be able to use it and kind of stay,
Right.
instead of, if you don't, you will be gone.
Right.
And that's what I think.
On the property management side, I'm curious what your thoughts are on how AI is going. How is it affected already?
Honestly, we've been focusing that AI so much on the mortgage and real estate. We haven't touched the property management side yet because we use a lot of tools from different companies that work fantastically.
So don't rock the boat.
So
sort of
yeah,
thing.
we haven't messed with it yet.
Yeah.
I think we're focusing on the sales piece first and try to getting, the sales and operations type of, and then we'll focus, the next piece will probably be on finance, whereas, accounting, bookkeeping, that type of stuff.
I think that's the smarter way to do it as well. And I mean, you would know because you've done it now. But I've had kind of two different scenarios with AI where like I'll have the idea, right, and try and formulate and almost try and build a use case around the idea, which doesn't work as well as having use cases, having an actual end in mind.
Correct.
And some like an itch to scratch.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get the real juice and power of it.
For me, it was like, it started with, we didn't have a CRM in place. We're 100% referral based, and we were just, riding the waves of that. And I really wanted to get it down to, there's a book, or there's a system that I got started reading. I totally forgot the name of it, but it's called the Entrepreneurship Operating System.
EOS.
EOS.
It's like yeah.
And
I'm
so
familiar.
that book kind of just flipped a switch in my head. And, we were just like, okay, X amount of people can only do X amount of things per day, X amount of things per week, X amount of tasks. Once you go past that X number, whatever that number is, things start to deteriorate, service levels drop, production drops, performance drops. So, the previous answer was, let's throw more bodies at it. Let's hire more people. Let's invest more in advertising. Instead of just, becoming more efficient. And so we looked at it. We're like, well, we can't hire anybody else. Our budget is where it is, and this is where we have to work with. So, it was one of those things where we're like, okay, so how do we help? We love our people. How do we help our people get better? And that was the end goal. So now,
I love that.
So now a pre-approval took, a real good one took about a day and a half. It takes, a few minutes now. And the experience level, right? So like, you have someone that has a lot of experience like me and him, where you have a person that's on our team that doesn't have that experience, that every time they run into something, they have to ask us. So now they don't have to ask us. They just ask. And they can receive the answer.
Do you have that built in? Because I've actually been building it for my firm, my public adjusting firm, kind of like a brain.
Yep.
So you can, and is that they're interfacing with your
Yeah,
company's brain sort of
they
thing?
are.
Oh, I love that, man.
Correct.
That's great.
And
great.
And that's what we actually just finished building, that type of application. I started building a huge application that did 1,000 things, and it still does 1,000 things, and it's got 1,000 buttons, and I saw myself turning into what I didn't want before, which was the whole adoption piece, right? So what I did was I just created in the app, I made the app kind of like an MCP server.
Okay.
And now I attached cloud on top of it.
Oh yeah.
So now everything can be done just by the chat interface, by the user.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah. Oh damn. Damn, this is game right now, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like for example, so now let's say Maggie, or let's have a processor, right?
Yeah.
They receive a loan approval, right? And that loan approval has XYZ on it. It's the application has been syncing with their email, has been syncing with their Ring Central line. So all their
Calls
not only recorded, but they're transcribed, right? So now they're text, right? And their text messages are all text. So
It has all the context of
correct.
that file.
DocuSign is connected. You have Microsoft 365 connected. So now the application comes in, or the approval comes in. She can literally just say, hey, you know, here's the approval. Okay. I need you to go over it. I need you to, number one, write an email to the borrower and tell them exactly what they need to bring that we don't have, since it's connected to Microsoft 365, and we keep a lot of the files in our OneDrive.
Mm-hmm.
It can search OneDrive,
Right.
or it can search, search Noah, which is where what we call it, and then it's secure in there, and then it has those capabilities to read, and compare what they asked for, what we already have. If there's letters of explanation, it could write it, and then you can tell it, hey, and then after you write the letters of explanation, send them through DocuSign to the contacts on this file, give it the loan number, it knows, and then it'll say, and then when you're done, give all the parties in the transaction a update. This is all in one prompt.
Right.
So, and we just tested it and it did it.
It works.
It works.
Isn't
It
that the
works.
most it's the most satisfying, because I've had, even to this day, I'll be running through it, I'll give it a prompt, I'll be wanting to work on something, and I'll be like, man, I don't think it's going to be able to do this, man. And especially like on the ops side, an actual execution task like what you just described, I'm always like, oh, man, I think this might be it. This might not be the one it can do. And then it does it. I'm like, shit, this is crazy,
man. And creating an MCP function for your application is
Very
actually
smart.
very easy.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm scared of is running into, Claude's usage limits.
Are you on the Pro plan, the Max plan?
I'm on the Max plan, but as a company, when you put it on a company, you have to use the Team or Enterprise plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most secure.
Right.
So you have to, it gives you, I think, 6.25 times as much usage as the Pro plan. And then it goes to regular API costs.
Which can rack up.
Which I don't know what that's going to be yet, but, it depends on their use, right?
Right.
So,
well, the beauty of that is you can, and I've set this up on my workspace. I've prompted it like, hey, let's make sure, because I have a couple of those calls, not at the enterprise level, but, I don't want to be on my business ventures on these things. I don't want to be spending a certain amount of dollars, right, on token usage and API calls. I've literally told it, hey, go through all of our projects, take a look at, what LLM you're using. Are you using the
Correct.
So
Yeah.
let's not sacrifice quality. I'll tell them, like, I don't want to sacrifice quality, but let's optimize for efficiency and spend. And it does it. Like,
yeah,
it'll
and I've done that too. Another thing that I've done too is, before AI, I mean, applications used to still run a lot of automations.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
So,
Zapier, I mean, they were there.
So it was like, you can run chronological automations with code. It'll just create it. I mean, it's the same thing over and over and over again, but it doesn't need an LLM call. So we've done that. And then we still use a lot of OpenAI, low cost models like Nano Mini, which are really, really good, for that type of stuff. But yeah, I'm excited now. Like, it's like, oh wow, this is gonna really be a game changer. I mean, I told my processors, look, at the beginning of the year, is like, hey, my goal for you this year is your job will only be cutting and pasting from one to the other, and then I don't know if we're gonna do what comes after that.
We'll get there first.
That's my goal.
Cross that bridge when we get to it.
My goal is for you to read some stuff, copy paste it here,
Yeah.
read what that said, copy paste it over here,
Right.
and we close the file. And
Yeah.
she was like, whatever, you know. But you know, let's see
Yeah.
what it does. And on the real estate side, it's been, you know, we just started testing this stuff, so
Right.
we don't have the huge amount of leads in there yet, but
Yeah.
it's been good. People raise their hands, you know, they get instant gratification, which is the most important thing. You know, I want to see these properties.
Right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see this type of property in this area with this many bedrooms. This, you know, you don't have to log into MLS, hand pick the things.
Right.
It goes, looks it up, sends them a link with a short list on it. They click on it and they see everything, and they swipe right, swipe left, whether they like it or not.
Oh,
Just
I
like
love
Tinder.
that's like yeah, that's great. There's your recruitment right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are technology leading firm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm excited. We'll see.
Yeah.
You know, we're obviously the biggest hurdle is always the testing, the bugs, and going back and forth. But once it works, it works pretty well.
And do you have any? I would imagine not, but do you have any like development coding background before?
I do not.
Same. Isn't
Do
that
not.
just amazing?
I do not.
I
I
love
mean, my
it.
family. I have a family business. I have on my family side. They're technology, you know, based businesses.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, my brother-in-law, who's my mentor, and he's always been, you know, technology, and he's an engineer, and you know, he put a computer in front of me when I was, you know, 5 years old. So
Wow.
you know, I've always been it's always come easy for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
But no
just-
traditional.
No.
Yeah,
No,
that's the most.
the reason I got into it is when it first came out, I was like, man, I would love to create a bot that just follows up on leads.
Yeah.
Because I guess it starts with like what you hate the most.
Right.
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 You know, and what we hated the most was chasing people down forever.
Right.
You know, and it started with that, and then it did that.
Right.
And we were like, oh, okay. So what else can it do? Can it talk on the phone yet? Nah, not too good.
Yeah.
It can't
Now
have a
it's
phone
really good.
conversation. It's getting better.
It's gotten pretty good. We built one for
Yeah?
a mortgage company. Yeah. It does English and Spanish.
Oh.
Pre-qualifies. all
that's
that good
good.
stuff. Yeah. It's
I mean,
legit. It's legit.
we haven't gone back to it.
Yeah. There's a little pushback too. Some people don't like, you know, so you got to be careful how you implement it. You know,
Yeah.
We
You
built
know-
in something as soon as they say want to speak to a human, it directs. But
Right.
some
'cause
people don't love it.
We
you know,
I did do some stuff with Vappy and 11 Labs and try to test it out, and people didn't like it. So that's why we kind of just
you
backed
got to
off.
kind of every company will adopt it differently, I suppose. But it's definitely there
For
It's-
like a
it's
level
pretty
1
close.
customer service
Yeah.
type of thing. I think it's great.
Yeah.
You know, like receptionist type of thing. I think it you know,
Right.
routing call. I think that it's
Yeah.
good for that for now. I mean, for us, nobody's liked it.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
But once I think it can solve problems for people, I think they'll be like, yeah.
I saw that ChatGPT or OpenAI in general, they're rolling out like you can start connecting like your banking and stuff. How bullish are you on that? On the integrating it into like that? Like, would you do it? Would you connect your stuff there?
Probably not.
Yeah, me neither, man. I read that. I was like, that's nuts.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not gonna
you're
do
not
that,
getting
you
my
know?
my banking.
You know, I have thought of stuff like, you know, stocks.
Yeah.
That type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, where I put a little money there and kind of see what it does.
See what it can do.
And kind of, but that's scary too. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. There's a level of trust there that I don't think we'll get.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, man. We're coming up to the end here. I wanted to ask you because I'm genuinely curious. I always love asking successful entrepreneurs. You know, what do you guys do? Well, I would ask you if you were on camera, but what do you do kind of in between? You know, you're running 3 businesses. I'm sure fires come up, and you know, stress levels can go high. How do you kind of manage it? And especially running multiple ventures, what do you do to kind of keep your cool, keep your your sanity?
For me, honestly, it's my kids.
Mm.
You know, my kids take away I have a really bad ADD problem. I mean, if you know me and you hang around with me a lot, I am all over the place, you know, focus wise.
Yeah, same.
But my kids kind of take that away. They kind of relax me. So one is 5, one is 2. And, you know, they're kind of at that age where, you know, that's the fun part for me.
Yeah.
That's the only thing right now that does it. Actually hanging out with my wife is really good.
The camera just went memory
Ooh,
You're still rolling.
we
on-
probably still on this.
You're on speed. Camera 1 and 2. 3 is down.
So that's the full shot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
I'll
you
have-
just continue.
yeah, I'll
just
have-
letting you know so when he does it.
Yeah.
And don't forget to say PMI Instagram.
Yes.
Thanks.
So we'll chop that up. I'll let Ronar know. Sorry, just if you want to pick
Yeah.
that
So
up.
and spending time with my wife.
Yeah.
You know, that's been, my family's been always the, you know, they put up with a lot. So,
Yeah.
especially my ADD. So,
Yeah.
you know, it, you know, that anytime that I can spend with them, that's really what keeps me sane. Oh, that and basketball. I like
Basketball.
basketball too. so
Nice.
that
That's good
helps.
stuff, man. Yeah. Very important. Well, Jesse, it's been fantastic having you on, man. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm really looking forward to seeing what AI does in
Yeah,
the
man.
future, and let's definitely keep in touch. You're welcome
Absolutely.
back anytime. Maybe next time we'll have you on. Camera shy. Is he camera shy?
No, Howie
No.
is non-AI. He is the master. So this is the mastermind on technology.
Okay.
Howie is more the people everybody loves.
I
He's
got
like
you.
The therapy, the cool chill.
Gotcha, I
vibe,
love
it.
Where
Yeah.
they come to problems with him, and then he does all.
Well,
the
that's what a good
technology.
partnership's all about,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
they balance
Yeah.
each other, yin and yang, literally
Right.
the colors.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I'm going to open it up. You can speak to this camera,
Okay.
promote the services, the businesses, whatever you want.
Yeah, we're PMI Miami Coast. We're a Property Management Inc. franchise based out of Miami. We handle all your short-term rental needs, long-term rentals from A to Z. We're a full-service management, licensed and insured, and we'd love to show you what we can do to maximize the revenue on your properties.
Awesome. Jesse,
All
great
right.
to have you on. Great meeting you.
Thank you.
See you next time, guys.